Hello, everyone. How you doing today? Welcome to the Byte Show. Today we have our first episode. We have a world-class panel with us tonight. We have Eric Ruiz. He's an infrastructure architect. He has about a good 20 to 30 years experience, working with infrastructure, designing large-scale systems. And then we have Rob Suber, who also is a 30-year veteran IT. Does stuff like design systems, but now he actually moved up and he's a senior level managing director for a very reputable firm. And Rob's come a long way. So I'd like to welcome to the show tonight. My name is Patrick Kidney. I'm the owner and CTO of TechCloud. We're a New York-based company where we do professional service, managed services, technical support. We do all kinds of stuff, and now we're actually into media. And we're launching a couple of technology TV shows. Once affectionately, I got my shirt, from my Spark TV show. But anyway, that's it. I don't want to go on a tangent. So tonight we're going to be talking about VMware, a little bit of VMware, vRealize, VDI performance with hyperconverged infrastructure, maybe some SAN. Just talk about some stuff that maybe. That's happening right now out there in the world. Might be a little bit about Horizon 2. So with that, let's get started. Eric, I think by far right now, as far as VMware is concerned, you have probably more experience than all of us with working with VMware or VDI. So in your take of it, what are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to architecting and sizing an environment? Like, what are some of the things, like, how do you figure out? I know there's usage profiles where you'll figure out if somebody's a medium, light, a heavy user or a power user. But, stuff that I see documentation that says, 100 IOPS random, 100% random. What does it look like to you?
Well, it always depends really on what you're running. So let's take, like you said, the typical high, medium, low scenario. You have a high intensive graphics department or GIS department. So they're using not only graphical intensive programs, but they're working with like petabytes or tons of data. So those particular VDIs would be very, very heavily used. So you're talking about the equivalent of a high-end Mac or high-end PC. So 16 cores, 32 gig of RAM, so on and so forth, something along those lines. So to take that and translate that into VDI, of course, like anything else, you would test that and then see the load on not only usage, but say during boot, when you're caching the big image files. So from there, that relates to what storage you have. And then with the storage, of course, fast disk, medium disk, slow disk. So each of the LUNs have to be placed appropriately to service each area of the VDI. Now, there's a lot of talk of how to figure that out. Plain Jane, good old-fashioned testing is the best way to do this, because a regular user, administrator for the president of the company or the secretary to, the legal department, they're not heavy users. They're heavy document users, maybe scan users. But, to frame that out, they would be considered probably equivalent to low end. So with them, it's just they're going to be chewing up globs of memory as opposed to globs of CPU, or what they're doing is not graphically intensive, so you don't have to worry about that additional overhead of either having dedicated GPUs and or offloading that to additional CPUs, making the requirements of each VDI larger.
So, yeah, I think based on some of the stuff we're going to get into, further on in the discussion, we're going to talk about GPUs and stuff like that. But I just wanted to get your perspective on that. We're going to take a commercial break right now. When we get back, we're going to talk with Rob and Eric about VDI and some of the stuff that's happening out there with projects in the world today, okay?
Most people understand the importance of first impressions, and we as business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals know we only get one. Has someone ever asked you for a business card and you didn't have one to share? Or have you ever been given a card and lost it? At TechCloud, we have created a solution for these problems. We created a business card that you create and store on your mobile device, making it simple for you to text someone your information while collecting theirs in the process. This card is a complete digital profile connecting your name with your knowledge and experience. The best part about going digital is that everything is connected. You need just one link to share your products, websites, social networks, and blogs. Share your expertise with clients, make it easy for others to quickly recognize your potential and talents and refer you new clients. The greatest benefit to your new digital business card is you can update and share your card as often as you like, and every card you have sent out previous is automatically updated. Just imagine meeting a potential client at a networking event. When they pass you a paper business card, you can now quickly send them your new TechCloud business card via text, and you will capture their information in your contact center. Inside the contact center, you can add notes and communicate with your contacts. This TechCloud digital business card will make a lasting impression with your clients. Get started today at techcloudvbc.me.
Image is everything. Reputation management delivered at the speed of thought. R-Square Media helps clients be seen or not be seen. Be the only one your customers see on page 1 of Google, Facebook, YouTube, and more. Fake news and bad press can be removed from Google page 1. R-Square Media is certified minority-owned business with the City of New York and winner of the 2017 Minority Business of the Year with MTA and Con Edison. Clients love R-Square Media because we're fun to work with and deliver results at the speed of thought. Visit rsquare.media to schedule a consultation for peace of mind.
Welcome back to Bytes, everyone. We have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber both with us tonight. We're going to be talking about VMware and VDI and vRealize and a couple of the VMware technologies. So we were already talking about VDI. We were talking about how to really try to determine profiles by doing testing, which I'm in agreement with. I think basically what you're doing too is you're gathering performance counters. So what I would do is I would run a Perfmon data collector on the host, and I would measure performance. If it's VMware, I would use Operations Manager to run do the reporting on it to get the analytics to determine if the environment needs more capacity with either CPU or memory or even storage. The one thing I got to say, Eric, after the other night, after we all got together, I did a lot of reading on vRealize, and I didn't realize how involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of components to it. You're talking about 3 clusters by themselves just to get the stack up and running.
Well, you're talking about the whole entire package.
If you're going to do it the right way, if you're going to do
right, that's the whole automation suite as opposed to just reporting. If you're doing just reporting, you can stick up an appliance per site plus the add-ins, and then you get the reporting. But if you want to get the whole package, then it's a heavy stack. But
right now, I'm looking at, if I'm going to architect vRealize, I'm doing it at the data center level. It's going to be a multi-tenancy. That's what, for me as a service provider, that's eventually where one day, if things progress and things keep moving forward, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll get into hosting, or get my own space and try to get something like that off the ground. But anything I do would be either Azure Stack, or I'm going to run vRealize, or even AWS Outpost, when it comes to hybrid cloud, But what I was getting into, you're talking about vRealize. Anyway, I was reading about it, and there's so many components, there's so many layers. I remember back in 2015 when I first got involved, when I was doing a project for one of our labs. It was a little involved, but I was just dealing with 3 appliances, which was the identity appliance, re-automation, and I believe it was the infrastructure host that I had to run. But I ran into an interesting problem, which I wanted to shoot myself for, because it took me 3 days to figure out, and it was something so stupid. One thing I'll tell you right now, I learned the hard way with vRealize and VMware with time synchronization. I got my ass kicked. And I tell you, I was livid when I I must have checked. I must have checked the time. What happened was I must have saved the configuration.
Right.
The time syncing on the identity device wasn't syncing with the rest of the stack. But I wasn't getting any errors anywhere in the logs. But all I was seeing in Windows was a 404,
Right.
which made it look like a web error. Made it look like it was a web application error. So I actually started troubleshooting the web application server, a specific error code, and I'm going deep into the internet. Every possible article I could find on this error code.
Right.
It had nothing to do at the time with time synchronization. So
Well, certain codes are very ambiguous. You know how that goes.
that?
Certain error codes are very, very ambiguous. They change by the version of the operating system, the version of the app. But VMware and time has always been one of those things you gotta keep really solid.
Oh yeah, no, I learned the hard way. After that, I'll never have that problem again. But that was just an interesting problem. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I started doing a lot of reading about it, and there's many different facets to it. Business part of the costing part of it. So essentially, if you're building out at a data center level, you're going to build 3 physical clusters. One's going to be for management, one's going to be for edge, and one's going to be for infrastructure. And then you're going to have to basically build out all your blueprints, which is setting up your self-service catalog. But there's so much involved. There's so literally building a whole cloud from nothing. That's how involved it is. You're building all the offerings. You're building all the blueprints. You're building all the configurations for public and private cloud.
Well, that's the whole idea of it too, because you wanted to go in and grab as much information from your infrastructure to give you back all the information you need to scale out the best way you can scale out, to measure, do metrics and stuff like that, to give you an idea of how your environment is functioning, how it's working properly. Especially, a lot of times now you're in a big environment now with a lot of servers and a lot of things going on within your environment. So this is one way you can have something centralized where you can get all of this data, and you can go in different routes to get everything that you need kind of in one location, and kind of scope everything out to see where your issues might come up, to see where you might be lacking in certain areas. So it can really help you out in that aspect in a big way.
Well, to chime in, I also like to say it's a very proactive product if you think about it, because once you're set up, you're giving everybody the de facto configurations to use. So if you want a web server, here's your web server template. Everything is going to be pre-configured for you. There's no deviation. There's no chance of error that way, because
you're driving up efficiency too with your provisioning. You're basically calculating out all your resources, so you know how many instances that you could support at what size, what performance level, what kind of database, how big. So you're basically building that self-service catalog, which it's going to take some time. I know, I know people right now that are doing work with this, and I know that they got some challenges in front of them, and they were out over the weekend last week talking about it, and while we were all out having drinks or whatever, and I told them some things that they could start looking at. But outside of that, what else do you see? What other things you see with vRealize? So we know we get the provisioning with cloud, it's hybrid cloud, you get the cost optimization, you get operations manager, you get log analytics.
You can actually tie it direct. So if you're on-prem or even on cloud, there are add-ins or adapters you can have to connect to your Azure cloud, your AWS cloud, your local storage. All the big vendors make these adapters so that the monitoring will stretch directly into the hardware or into your cloud and give you back more statistics. Do it at a single pane of glass. So now your entire reporting is going from all 7 layers, which is an awesome thing. And then you know exactly what's going on, because as your templates change, as you patch, all of a sudden there's a spike in CPU. What causes? It came after this patch for this app. Okay, let's take a look at that.
No, I understand that. But one thing which I found, it's kind of funny.
Okay.
So when you get an instance in the cloud, you're essentially, if you don't bring your own license, licenses are transferable for servers you have on premises, right?
Right.
So, like if you have a Windows server and you have to go and you go into Azure, you could use a Windows-based license as long as you have software assurance or something to that effect.
I believe so.
Use that in Azure. What's that?
I believe so. I believe you're correct.
Yeah, so you have software assurance, but VMware, even if you're provisioning a VM that you realize manages, you're paying a VMware license for that instance, even though you're paying for one on the cloud.
That's
Twice.
Well, it depends, because if you do AWS VMware hosting, your license transfers back and forth the same way VMs transfers back.
You're doing that, but a lot of people may not be doing that. And a lot of people may be just doing just deployment to a VPC that's already configured in AWS and uploading some instances, doing lift and shift migrations.
Right. So yeah, you're paying for the VPC and the licensing for that operating system, all that, and then you have to transfer your license or buy an additional license for that one to get the stack up there to work. So yeah, it's that, like,
it can alert you on that kind of stuff as well too. You know, when you get into it.
It'll definitely do that on costing. So if you set yourself that, let's say you said, and during for the financial part of it, for the cost of TCO.
Right.
You set numbers into the system. I believe it'll do this. As you start approaching that number that you plug in, you'll start getting alerts, warnings, and then you'll get a report that basically says you're approaching your capacity. What
exactly
is, because that's all the cost factor that goes into it. So there's a lot of. I still have some more reading to do. There's a lot more involved. Than what we talked about today. The level of complexity between all the, when you start getting into like the whole data center, the VMware, vSphere, vMotion, DRS, if you're doing Site Recovery Manager, part of VMware, if you're doing Operations Manager, you're running that. If you're running vRealize, I mean, it's just, it's a mountain of products, and I must have downloaded, no exaggeration, about 25 documents.
Yes.
Last weekend, over the weekend.
Easily you can. Like I said, there's so many different areas you can go into that it's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, you know how it is with the big enterprise. Rob does too. It all starts with the foundation. You got to set up that foundation correctly. Once you start there, you're solid. Then you start adding everything else. It will take time, and you know how it is. A good long-term plan. Good deliverable, smart work. It'll take some time, but you'll get there. And then guess what? All that effort, then afterwards, it's like 10% effort, 90% results. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, well the good thing is it's not something that I'm actually doing anything with myself. I'm just learning it to know it. In case I get a customer opportunity, something comes in, and there's an opportunity. Like let's say. Because I'm in one opportunity right now, and if that ends at any time, I'll be on the market again.
Right.
In that contract, and at that point, I want to make sure that I'm all skilled up. And weekends, I've been learning 4 or 5 different development languages because I'm certified in all the clouds. I got that done. And I have experience. I know how to do everything, but development, writing code was a big thing. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about tonight. So sorry, I went on a tangent there. Anyway, so we're going to take a break right now. I'm going to come back after these messages. We're going to continue the discussion. We're going to get into some more of maybe some cloud tonight and talk about some of the stuff that's happening with AWS and Azure. Some news. I'm going to basically start a discussion with some news that I read, and we'll go from there. So everybody hang in there. We'll be right back after these messages. Thank you.
Gene Lazarovich, Advanced Computer and Network Corporation.
We build, service, support, jet stored data storage systems. We offer the best price performance ratio on the market. We offer a consultative approach to the customers. We try to figure out their pain points, and then we try to offer them the best possible solution. I'm passionate about interacting with my customers, interacting with partners, interacting with suppliers. Whenever I talk to customers, they always challenge me. They always try to push me to give them the best possible solution that we offer. we are small and we are able to react faster to the customer needs. So we don't have a big overhead. So customers can go directly to me. I can solve the problem. If the problem is not solved, then they can go to my support team and they will help them. So we are small, and that helps us to be more reactive to the customer's demands.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. We're back on the show at Bytes. We have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suba with me tonight on my panel. Tonight we were talking all about VMware vRealize and the vRealize suite. What's involved, what are some of the capabilities that you get. You know, we got into stuff about cloud, you know, some of that stuff, but you know, some of the other things that come up that's really important whenever you're sizing it. And this is stuff that, you know, this is with VMware, this is with Azure Stack, anything hyper-converged, anything converged with SAN. You know, you're designed to a performance and recovery specification. So, like right now, one of the hottest things out on the market right now, and I'm not sure if you guys have done any work with this, but hyper-converged. So people are moving away from SANs as much. I would say if you have a very large database that's many terabytes and stuff like that, you're still going to leverage converged infrastructure with SAN for certain major workloads. You know, if you want all flash array and stuff like that. I mean, with hyper-converged, you also have a lot of options. It's just a different type of storage architecture. So when you go in SAN, you're talking LUNs, RDMs, things like that. When it comes to hyper-converged, you're talking about software-defined storage that's built into a giant pool. And so instead of, you know, on a SAN, when you want to copy, you're doing virtualization within the SAN so that you have different pools and you have copies that way, or you're replicating off to another site. So in my experience right now, I think hyper-converged is kind of changing things a lot. I mean, you guys should see it already. I know that, you know, companies that I talk to all the time, when any infrastructure that they're looking at, they're doing either Nutanix or they're doing, you know, Hyperflex or Microsoft hyper-converged with Azure Stack.
Right, that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's just taking on its own identity now. A lot of people are utilizing that now too. Also, because of how much you have built into the device itself and stuff like that, and you know, the different layers of it. You know, you got the modular hardware, you got virtualization, you got applications on top of that. You know, you got compute and hypervisor, network security, storage. You know, software-defined infrastructure management within, which is involved in that as well. So, there's
like right there, Rob. You just. One of the things I'll tell you right now that you hit a number of key words that still a lot of people don't understand, like software-defined data center, software-defined compute, storage, and networking. You know, it's still a concept that even myself, sometimes I have to go back and read to understand like how the networking does encapsulation to make sure that if you're in multi-tenancy, that packet's not landing on a router that's configured in the cloud from one of those other tenants. Things like that, you know, sometimes I have to go back and review the technical data because everything, when you go software defined, especially if you're a SAN guy, especially if you're a guy that's used to working with arrays.
Yeah, that's true.
You would never even think about doing something without RAID before hyper-converged. You know, when Microsoft launched Storage Spaces Direct back in, I think it was 2015 or 2016, they had a Dell stack at night. They did 6 million IOPS in a 12-node cluster. 6 million IOPS. You know how big a SAN has to be to produce 6 million IOPS? At least back then it was, because Flash and SSD was still really the best disk. Flash was kind of on the radar happening, but off in the distance. Now with an all-flash array, that's not even a consideration anymore. But the hyperconverged really changed the game a lot. Because now, you know, you have market leaders like Nutanix,
Yes.
And they're kind of, which is kind of odd. They're leading because I think they're still developing their own hardware. They're still running on other vendors'
Yes.
hardware. I don't think they figured out a hardware solution yet.
No.
And then you have Azure Stack, which Dell has a stack. Lenovo's got a stack.
Right. HP has a
stack. So depending on your data center, what you want to do there, if you want to resell Azure services to tenants, stuff like that, then if you're a service provider, that's
Right.
something you do, And then you have Hyperflex, which is their hyper-converged, and they do things differently there too.
Correct.
Well, there's one thing about the underlying technology for all this acceleration on the controllers and for the storage. If you take a look at, say, like you said, Azure's stack, EMC's Dell Unity stack, Nutanix, what they've all done is learn and how to improve their controllers, how they improve their caching, how they're improving the memory to write speeds to accelerate all this. Because you're still limited by spindle. If you're even if you do use spindles, which not everybody does anymore, 10,000, 15,000 RPMs, that's kind of just like the limit of things right now. SSDs plus the caching disk plus the direct from memory to SSD writing, it's it's there. And then of course, like you said.
When NVMe drive, you're talking about 12 terabytes and 3,900 megabytes a second.
Actually, I think they've gotten even faster than that now.
They have, huh?
Yeah, I think so, because I know they're doing basically on certain arrays, you can RAID those MVEs and get all the aggregate data together for of course redundancy and also for a big burst of read and write.
That's true.
The fabrics. You know what? I read about that. That's NVMe over fabrics. Finding fabric to do that too. I was just reading about that. But what I was getting at with the NVMe and what you actually responded to what you were saying about how the writing and the caching happens. That's a big thing. That's a big thing that hyperconverged does. That really helps. So in Hyperflex, for instance. They use a single NVMe drive, but what they act as is a caching layer, and they use a tiered storage approach. And Nutanix does something very similar.
Right.
Most of the hyperconverged solutions do. But the interesting thing, though, is the amount of IOPS that you can get out of a cluster. I mean, normally you would stack a room full of boxes for SAN.
Right.
Get to the IOPS and that you would have to hit typically, and you're doing it with far less disks and hyperconverged than you're doing in the SAN.
I don't know if I agree with that 100%, and I'll tell you why. Because the same technology they use in hyperconverged, they're sort of using in the SAN. Yeah, SAN is more typical and traditional. You have a big rack, you stack the controllers and different shelves in there. But now that whole standalone SAN is obfuscated. Sorry?
I keep forgetting about flash. You got to realize
it's not just flash disk. You talk about in the controls with the caching.
Yes.
Memory you put in, and now the backplanes are getting even faster now. You're doing many terabytes in the backplane speed between the disks, and then going uplink on the fiber too. Now, if you're doing 40 gig fiber channel, 40 gig fiber channels available, right? And that's just for regular use between hosts and going to the storage. Imagine the backplane speed. It's got to be ridiculous, because if you do a backplane that has a 12 or 24 terabytes backplane speed and you have fiber linking them,
on all flash SAN right now, you can definitely do that. The current standard is 32 gigs per second for fiber channel, but they're doing fiber channel over Ethernet, and they're increasing. Actually, it was fiber channel NVMe over Ethernet or over fabric, something like that. There's a new thing they're doing with NVMe and Ethernet fabrics.
Talking about too. I forgot what that is too.
I'm trying to remember what it was now. It's just driving me crazy because it ties into what you were saying.
Right.
And my thing is this. It's funny that I've been at a Hitachi since 2016, and I still in my brain. One of the things working for them. You were constantly doing technical review, technical data. Every 3 months, something new is coming out. Something was new being released. So the last real hardcore SAN stuff that I actually done, as I've been doing so much cloud and most public cloud stuff, the last time I really did hardcore SAN stuff was 2 years ago.
Well, I just deployed a Dell EMC Unity.
Okay. How you like that?
It's sweet. and two sites, 360 miles apart,
Okay.
and the link is good between them, so it's a 10 gig link, so I'm getting great time. But literally between installation, IPing, IP for the WAN, and they see each other, license them, and had them start talking. It was immediate integration, and it's actually, the whole thing is software driven. So even though I do have cache, I do have SATA, the controllers are nice and loaded, it actually a lot easier than it was doing, say, a VNX Gen 2 7 years ago. Okay, the hardcore is still there, but like everything else, like you know, it's gotten so much smoother now. You know, a lot of old systems, you had to pay so much more or do so much more to get WAN replications asynchronously to work within a reasonable state. Right now, my RPOs and my RTO, 15 minutes, I believe.
What are you doing? What are you doing for replication? You using SAN replication? Are you using site recovery? What are you using?
So I'm doing, for certain LUNs, it's SAN-based replication. For other LUNs, I'm doing VMware-based replication, and then I have SRM governing the whole entire thing. And I have VLANs stretch between both sites, so I don't have to worry about changing IPs or changing names or running any scripts. When I fail something over, it fails over natively.
Yeah, I mean, I did a site recovery design for SharePoint in I think it was around 2016 that I did that with Site Recovery Manager. And you know, with Site Recovery Manager, the beautiful thing about it is you just basically, the machine's replicated over there and the other site, and you're basically just turning it on is really what you're doing. One site goes down, you can have a lights out failover, as long as, like with SharePoint, as long as you are running synchronous replication of the disk with the index, and then you would be able to basically fail over to a farm, bring over the search index, so it wouldn't have to rebuild. And I built this old lights out design. Microsoft at first came in and said, no, it can't be done. And then I said, no, it can be done. This is how. And they were like, wow, we never did that, you know.
Okay, well, for the search index, are we talking about that's something encapsulated within SQL? That's a set of
files. It's a set of files on the local server that gets stored. So whenever somebody actually hits a URL, does a search in SharePoint, that search gets cached on basically into an index that gets crawled and written to, you know, either continuously or every 15 minutes, depending on how you have it set. So that thing just keeps building and building and building. The more stuff that gets searched over time, so it can grow 100 gig, 200 gig. And, you know, if you lose that index, you're literally starting search from with nothing in it. It has to rebuild. So
does that ever get pruned, or is there like an aging out of that indexing? Or
so there's ways that you could, with logging, that you could actually have data only kept in cache in the index for so long. But the index it's one of these things where you have to let it grow, because the more stuff that's in the index, the faster the return of the rendering of a page and the data that's within that document library or that page is going to be available.
Wow, that's crazy.
Something's not in the index, guess what? You know, it could cut, you know, in cloud and in SharePoint Online, you know, something in the index, if it's not there, it could take 10 minutes, an hour, you know, sometimes even a whole day, you know, depending on what it is and how behind the cloud is. It's supposed to be supposed to have 3 nines, and your availability of your data is supposed to be pretty high, and it is for the most part. But for some reason, with SharePoint, it is the biggest consumer of Azure storage on the planet. That's just an example of what it is, right? I never knew that until I seen SPC 2019 that SharePoint is the biggest consumer of Azure storage. That shocked me. I mean, it did and it didn't, because it is a content platform and it does hold a lot of data. Right. I just figured with Cosmos DB or Data Warehouse or SQL Azure, you know, they would be running, you know, so much more storage would be to be consumed. But anyway, I went on a whole tangent. But getting back to what we were talking about, the index. So the search index does have time, you know, data does get life cycled in and out, you know, so depending on what you have set in the policy. So the policy that you set determines how long something remains in the index before it's purged. You know,
Cool.
you want your search index to be fresh. You don't want it to be. You really don't want it to contain data that's old. So if you have a lot of change in the environment, you don't want something to be stale.
Right.
Because then that instance for that whatever it is that you're searching for may not actually be there anymore, and yet it's still appearing in the results. And the only way to get something like that out is you literally have to go into the index and manually delete it. So there's a lot of stuff with the index that becomes very important. And the reason why I brought up that design, but what would originally spark this whole discussion, you talked about Site Recovery Manager, and that was Site Recovery Manager was a complete win. That's what helped Hitachi win that deal.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, it's a smooth product, especially the latest version. It's actually really nice.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. We're going to continue on with the discussion. We're going to wrap up the show for this evening. We have Rob Suber and Eric Ruiz with us again. And I hope that everything you guys had heard tonight was actually beneficial to you. You know, keep watching the show. We're going to be doing specials. This is our first episode, and there's going to be many more to come, and a lot more technical information is going to be covered, you know, from week to week. So keep tuning in. It's going to get better and better as time moves forward. We'll be right back after these messages. Thank you.
With cyber threats active across the mobile world, doubt is now a part of doing business. More people are falling prey. Existing solutions do little to help. Difficult to install and configure. They're complicated, costly, and incompatible. Attacks continue to rise, which creates more doubt. It's time for Ijura Threat Eliminator. It protects your users, network, and business from a wide variety of mobile cyber threats. Technology agnostic, it needs no integration, which saves you time and money. Deploy enterprise apps just like consumer apps, keeping your users happy, your network secure, and your business protected. Ijura. Eliminate doubt.
The Echo TV channel is all about the world of business and modern technology. There will be 3 main shows that will be airing. One of which will be a show called Bytes, where an industry-leading panel of senior systems engineers, principal architects and application developers will discuss topics around infrastructure, cloud, and development and release technologies and production deployment standards. The second show is called Spark, where CEO, CTO, executive IT and business directors from all types of businesses in the world and marketplace will be interviewed about all of the products and services that they are currently marketing and selling to customers, as well as some of their new products and services that are in the pipeline that they are near finished developing that will be key differentiators in the marketplace. The final show in the lineup for 2019 will be called Vibe News. This show will provide the latest news and information for business and technology that is currently being developed and emerging around the world, from startups to major players and solution providers. Other shows are being planned for the lineup in 2020 and beyond. Come watch us on Echo TV.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for staying on after that short commercial break. So tonight we have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber. Eric's an infrastructure architect. Rob is a managing director for a major company. And Eric works for a major company too. And, you know, between me, Rob, and Eric, we have a lot of infrastructure, architecture, cloud experience. And so tonight we got into a lot of stuff tonight. Heavy technical discussion around VMware, which then went into some hybrid cloud and then into some storage. And I guess the last thing I just want to leave off with is that we're going to be doing, special shows coming up. One is going to be vSAN versus Storage Spaces Direct. We're going to basically have a whole show, or maybe even two shows, or two halves, where we'll completely review one, all the technical options and details, and maybe do a second show with results. What we come back with and what we think is the better solution. Then we're going to do another show on hyperconverged by itself with 4 top solutions on Gartner's leaders board, and then we're going to do another one on SAN storage. We're going to cover, all the current NVMe technology, Optane, things like that for hyperconverged. We're going to cover a lot of server and storage technology, and then of course cloud. We're going to get into Azure. We're going to get into AWS, serverless. We talk about, Azure. We'll be talking about Service Fabric. We'll be talking about functions, logic apps from the Microsoft app platform. We'll be talking about Power Apps, Flow, Power BI for analytics. And then, of course, at some point, we're going to have an episode or two on database, and definitely do that. And, of course, application development as well. But anyway, that's all the stuff that's coming up over the next weeks ahead, months ahead on the Byte Show. So hopefully you'll join you'll sign into Roku and basically join the channel, subscribe to it, and start watching the show regularly. And hopefully you'll enjoy it. I think we're going to cover a lot of good things that you're not going to really get anywhere else. It's live. We'll have live shows where you'll be able to text in and call in and all that kind of stuff in the future. So that's all yet to come. So Eric, I just want to say thank you very much for being on the panel tonight. Same thing for you, Rob. Thanks so much for being on the panel. By the way, for the show, moving forward, Eric and Rob will be the main technical guys that are also on the panel. We have others that are in the works right now. And we're also going to have guest technical people on the show too as well. So there'll be, architects, engineers that are out there in the world that work for companies that will be guests on the show, commenting too on the various technologies that they're working with. So it's going to be an exciting year into 2020 and then beyond. So thanks everybody for watching the show. It was great having everybody tonight. The next episode will be on next week. Definitely watch the show. And then, if you want to reach out to get more information about any technology, any ideas for architecture, you can reach out to me at pkidney at sparktv.io, and I'll point you in the right direction for architecture information or anything else you may need for a project that you may have coming up. I'll be able to provide some guidance. All right. So thank you. Have a good night.
You